Are we looking to see how policies can be channeled towards exporting some level of processed share butter so that we can capture more value and push more of this out so that we take advantage of this apparent downturn in terms of the valuation of the Naira? Just a thought.
What we are doing in Central Bank and with the bankers is to try and get these exports back. And I'm speaking of what we just even discussed yesterday, to get credits to these exporters. So we're trying all we can to make sure that exports, or whatever we can produce in country, we also want to produce it so that in our supermarkets, see our products.
Thank you very much. So, Otumba Ashiru, I'd just like you to share your thoughts around how we can begin to create a lending policy or a lending environment for SMEs.
The issue of SMEs, Tokumbo was talking about access to funds, and very important. It's very key. The only way we can help people and we can reduce the level of poverty and create jobs is by making sure that we provide funds that will be accessible to our people. What we have done is that we look at the problems of our people, we identify the problem, and we provide solutions to those problems. And that is the major thing we need to do. But we should stop talking, we must put action in place.
The perspective in which we looked at SMEs was to provide support, because the moderator mentioned that finance is not the most important need of SMEs. So we looked at it from the perspective of support, because when we started the SME business, we realized that a lot of the proposals that came to us were really nothing to write home about, they were not bankable. So we thought there was a need to do something about that. So what we did was to engage the services of business development service providers. I'm happy to say one of them is here, wider perspective, Mr. Pierre, sitting right in front of us here. But their job is to package bankable business proposals for our SME customers, handhold them, and also provide mentorship. But what we did, because what the consultants in the past used to do was to charge them exorbitant fees for services provided. So we had to sit with these business development service providers, we negotiated, and we made them realize that this was going to be a national service, not a commercial venture. At the end of the day, we agreed on a scale of fees, a negotiated scale of fees. Though he smiled because he knows the battle we went through with them to get them to agree. And then we made it a success-based fee payment. That if you bring in a proposal, it has to be a proposal that is good enough to be approved by the bank. And if that is approved, you get 50% of your fee. But we also know that not all approved proposals get to the drawdown stage, because there are pre-disbursement conditions that have to be met. So we tied the other half of the fee to post-disbursement. So they have to ensure that when they bring in their proposal, it's good to be approved and it is good to be disbursed. And they shouldn't leave the customer alone after drawdown. They are supposed to handhold that customer to ensure that the business is sustainable. So that's what we did. We have 122 of them around the country. And we just did a recent request for proposal where we are bringing in at least 70 more to grow the size of the BDSPs, as we call them.
We have realized that this particular subsector have a lot of challenges which government, to me, is not really committed in approaching it, unlike the present government that is doing. So the national policy have equally come out with the National Council on Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, both at the federal level and at the state level. The National Council is now headed by the Vice President. And I know the last government had only one meeting before they left the scene. Again, we have approached the Vice President, who equally promised us that we're going to look into it and see how we can constantly have that meeting. And that meeting too, we tend to look at the peculiar nature of the subsector and how the problems can be solved. At the state level too, we have the State Council on MSMEs, and I know my friend, the Honorable Commissioner in local state, is doing well as regards the State Council there. Not only that, Smidan every year have a capital budget whereby we go to the 36 states of the Federation, including the FCT, to unleash entrepreneurship education and entrepreneurship training to micro, small and medium enterprises. We work in collaboration with the state ministries of commerce and industry. We've done this about 2 weeks ago for 2015, and we tend to hammer purely on how do we keep books as regards MSM, because this is a major problem confronting them. That is why banks don't like them as such, because of the risk component, whereby they don't keep good records. We equally expose them to marketing, techniques, and so on and so forth. So all this we do in collaboration with the private sectors too, because we do have some consultants that go to the field with us. Another aspect of it is that we try as much as possible to come out with some business development services to the MSMEs. The UWI program of the government was equally monitored by SMIDA. And that is why, to an extent, we have some of them doing very, very well. So this, in a nutshell, is what SMIDA has been doing since 2003. We have more, but for time, so let me break now.
The growing of SMEs in Nigeria is a welcome development, because the government must realize that SMEs are the ones that foster wealth creation. We're the ones that create jobs. We're the ones that actually help the nation, as it were. We're like the driving force of the national engine. But we need to be empowered. We need to be enlarged. But the challenges are a lot. SMEs are very, very, very important. And we don't want to go about, we don't want to talk about the statistics. We need government policies that will genuinely support the growth of SMEs. But regardless of the government policies, we forged our aim. I tell people that for SMEs to survive, to try, because this is all about positioning SMEs for growth, we need to encourage entrepreneurial education. It's very, very important. We constantly improve ourselves, And I also talk about, we must also encourage professional associations, mentoring, networks, There's WINBIs, there's so many things that we can all harness strength, because we've had to look away from the government, because the government is not encouraging us. The depreciating naira is not encouraging at all. The increased dollar demand, the reduced profit margin. One challenge we're facing is the taxes, the multiple taxes. Today is the radio and television. Because they close down. Even Mrs. George said, I don't have a radio and a television, and they asked us to pay radio and television license. There's so much. Multiple taxes, FIRS, the same tax that the billionaires, the big people are paying. They are saying the small SMEs should pay as well. So these are the things that we're trying to say. Government should make it simple. They should reduce the burdens, because we want to be ethical. We want to do business properly. We've had to reduce profits. We had to slash prices. We want to go on and on. Infrastructure, we're the ones that provide our power, water, the road network, electricity, everything, security. The cost of doing business in Nigeria is very, very high. So that, how do we try? We look at it both internally and externally. And as an SME, we've had to put our house in order. We have had to be innovative. We've had to create value, because that's what business is all about. We've had to be customer friendly. Okay.
Now encourage our MSMEs to go to FIRO to acquire the skills necessary and acquire the technology, because FIRO can arrange to fabricate simple machines that are cheap and can serve the purpose for which any MSME. So skill acquisition is key. It's something that we must do.
I think government, they have policies in place. Growing up, I know there are trade centers here and there. The problem we have in Nigeria is to make sustainability. We don't sustain whatever we have. They must empower them so that they can have more power to be able to do all these things. Let us reactivate, rehabilitate our training schools. We have so many of them in this country. So it's not that we don't have that. It's just failure of government.
And the central bank have been in various ways to address some of the challenges facing the entrepreneurs. For instance, when into power, because we realize that electricity is very critical. It can bring the cost of production to as low. It consists about 5% of cost of production. Aside from that, we look into the aviation because all these transportation are part of the instruments. They are the part of the platform that can naturally enhance and boost entrepreneurship activities in Nigeria. So the point I'm making is that we need to strengthen our institutions. Like Otumba said, the institutions are there, but they are not really functioning. Institutions of government have to be strengthened. That's why the central bank has been collaborating with the various development finance institutions. For instance, BOI, most of our foreign interventions are actually passed through them. Just last week, we discussed about 1.3 billion through Bank of Agriculture to farmers in Kebbi State to produce rice. Because it's important for us that all those goods that we are importing that we have the local capacity to produce, it's important for the government to support the stakeholders in those sectors. That is why we are supporting all those sectors that can bring about backward integration, trade jobs for our people instead of exporting our jobs.
But could you just say 1, 2, 3 things that you would like policy regulators here to do that you believe will be really impactful and SMEs will be grateful for?
What we want government to do for us, there's a lot. We need we want a conducive environment. We need an environment that is business friendly, an environment that will cause business to thrive. All these policies we're talking about, we need to generate awareness for these current policies. A lot of us SMEs are not aware of them. And we started recently hearing about the 220 billion naira fund from CBN for, and a lot of my fellow women in business have been saying, what happened to the funds? Who are the people that got these funds? We need to I said we need to win one government. We must have an inclusive and participatory policy making process. We should be actually involved, they should involve the SMEs. We're the ones that are generating the employment, we're the ones that are generating the increase in revenue. So we need to be involved in the development of these policies that control our industries. We also want the government to develop and implement tax policies for us that will protect SMEs, specific tax rates that will protect small businesses and develop them. And also, one last thing is that we need a lot of structural reforms in property registration, land acquisition, business registration, customs, taxation. There's so much. And lastly, we need investment. We need the government to invest in power, security. We have a new cabinet that has just been instituted. We're very positive about them. We look forward to the change because we're determined to be resilient. We need good transport networks. We need to think of exporting our own finished products and begin to earn the dollars. There's so much the government can do because we are the future of the economy.